Whether it was a program that competed in the past like UCF back in 2017, the Bearcats in 2021, and even TCU back in 2022, or even a program like SMU, who is looking to make noise in today's college football world. But many of these FBS programs that have originally tried to set their footing in and try to establish themselves at the FBS ranks all lead to a little known conference known as Conference USA, one of the newer conferences up at the FBS level, founded just in 1995. And while it is one of the younger conferences in college football, at the same time though, you almost cannot tell the modern college football story if it wasn't for Conference USA being in existence, only being around since 1995. However, if you take a look at the Conference USA of today, you can tell that Conference USA is holding on to dear life. This Conference USA is filled with teams that may have just been around the ranks of the FCS just a couple of years ago, and while there is a little bit of help coming their way in future seasons, at the same time, the conference, who has been around for 3 decades now, faces an important neck in the row. And that leads us to what we want to do here, doing something that really has not been done here on YouTube. And what hasn't been done here on YouTube is we want to take this little known conference and let's see if we can make it one of the group of 5 contenders year in and year out, as well as see if we can figure out once and for all if we can lead a Conference USA team to the ultimate prize, that is carrying the national championship at the end of the season, or if it becomes a little known footnote in college football history, just like we've seen from previous predecessors. Welcome to the Conference USA Dynasty on EA College Football. Let's go ahead and take a look around the league to see what we have to look forward to in this series. Let's get it. Hey, what's going on everybody? This is JohnJake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new series here on the channel, man. We are back here on EA College Football, but what you can also realize from this series as well is that this is not gonna be just your normal series like where we're gonna just build one singular team. Oh no, we are actually going to come out here and we are building an entire conference. We will control every single conference in Conference USA, see if we can build Conference USA into one of the best group of 5 conferences in college football, or will it be left behind in the dust like it has been time and time again. With that being said, boys, I hope you guys enjoy this series. It's going to be a fun one here. Let's go. I hope you guys enjoy it, man. And if you do, make sure you go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. If you do happen to be brand new, let's go ahead and check out a couple of caveats, as well as check out the notable members that are included in every team. So one of the notable caveats that we do have here in this series is that what I ended up deciding to do was that I actually mirrored it as close to the actual college football environment that we live in today. So what I've actually done specifically for this series is that I forced win every single game that has actually been played up to November 15th, which is when I am recording this. I'm recording this shortly after the Eastern Carolina and Tulsa game went final. So that's where I'm working from. So we're actually going to start from that particular starting point, and then we are going to see if we can alterate college football history from this specific inflection point in time, so to speak. So lots of work in the background, but hopefully you guys enjoy this nice touch as it mirrors modern college football, where we're staring at as of this 15th of November. So let's go ahead and check out the all of the notable players that are in the Conference USA here in 2024 moving forward, as we'll start with the Florida International Panthers, who, as you may know, they're having a decent conference season, sitting at 2-3, but they are coming in at 3-6 overall, so they do need to win out in order to get bowl eligibility. The strength of this team is definitely its secondary, though, as they have some dudes in the secondary. Brian Blades II and Asika Masses are two guys that are absolute studs here, like for the cornerback position. They definitely try to lock things down, make it very difficult to try and pass it up like on this particular defense. And then you also have JoJo Evans in the secondary as well, along with Jamal Potts out of Delray Beach, Florida as well, trying to line covering things in the back end. Their best offensive weapon, though, is Eric Rivers. He is from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Eric Rivers, he comes in, he's a former 2-star guy, but he has molded himself into a very good football player who has that sneaky potential to possibly go to the NFL someday, even though he may perceive himself as a little bit undersized. Meanwhile, over at Jacksonville State, who is certainly in the hunt to win the Conference USA Championship, they have arguably one of the best players in the entire conference. Clay Webb, who is a senior from Oxford, Alabama. You want to talk about small town USA. Clay Webb has turned himself into an absolute star. He is a former 4-star recruit, somebody that didn't originally come to Jacksonville State, but he transferred in from Jacksonville State, I want to say at least either last year or like 2 years ago. This is a phenomenal offensive lineman. He is a certified baller for the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, and he certainly, I would be shocked if he is not in the NFL at the end of the season. In terms of other notable guys on this team, they have two really good weapons in Sean Brown, the senior out of Rome, Georgia, who's got some decent speed, but is more known for his sure-handed abilities. You know, is one of the better catching tight ends in the conference. They also have a good running back in Anwar Lewis, who did hurt himself during the simulation, but he is one of the better running backs in the conference. On the defensive side of the ball, they have Latilia Hale out of Montgomery, Alabama. He is the captain of this defense, a former 2-star from Montgomery, Alabama. He's molded himself into a really high-end starter here in the Conference USA, and is someone that really excels on his awareness. He knows what the offense is going to run more likely than what the offense is doing. And he also really excels in stopping the run as well. One of the better run-stopping linebackers in the Conference USA. Finally, you got J-Rock Slane, the senior out of Talladega, who is known for disrupting the option. He is hurt, unfortunately, so, you know, Jacksonville State definitely dealing with some injuries, but they still have what it takes to possibly make a run at Conference USA Championship. Meanwhile, Kennesaw State is one of the new members of not only Conference USA, but of the FBS. This is the newest FBS team in America. And while this roster sucks, I'm not going to kid you with that, they definitely have some young pieces that they can build around going forward, if they can keep them from entering the transfer portal. Their best player is Jericho Washington Jr. He's a freshman redshirt in the metro Atlanta area. And Jericho Washington is a former 1-star player who happens to be, you know, one of those guys that did end up like being a real gem for this Kennesaw State program, a diamond in a rough, so to speak. Problem is, his playing style, the grade for is a D right now, which is a deal breaker for him, so he could be at risk in entering the transfer portal, and this is prevalent throughout the Kennesaw State roster. If they can keep it together, they have a young nucleus, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Donovan Lesmorwin is under the least risk of going into a transfer portal because his deal breaker is playing time. He's got a really good quick jump, and he is extremely quick for a defensive lineman. He's an 83 speed guy. And then Donelius Johnson is a field general for this defense, although because of his playing style deal breaker not currently being met, he is also in risk in entering the transfer portal. But even though this team definitely is not ready to compete here in this first season. It may not be ready for the first full season that we play of Conference USA football. They have certain pieces in place to be a really good football team down the line if they can learn to keep it together. One of the best talent rosters in college football, though, or not in college football, but in the conference, is the Liberty Flames. They have probably the highest overall of any team in Conference USA, at least to start. They're an 81 overall team. They are led by their backfield trio of Caden Salter. Now, Caden Salter is someone that can enter the transfer portal last year, but decided to come back. He is a former 4-star recruit for Liberty Flames. Came here when Hugh Freeze was the coach, and even after Hugh Freeze has left, he is still sticking around. And he's just an insanely good football player, very elusive, hard to bring down to the ground. His IQ is really impeccable, and not to mention, he's got 87 speed and 92 acceleration either. He's just a complete quarterback for the Liberty Flames, who has legitimate NFL aspirations as a junior. The other big player that they have is Quinton Cooley, and Quinton Cooley is the other part of this, tandem of guys that they have, who is absolutely menacing. He's a former 3-star player out of Bailey, North Carolina, and Quinton Cooley, the 5'7" running back, not as quick or maybe as elusive as Caden Salters, which is crazy to think about. But he's an extremely smart football player. He's an extremely smart football player, decent route runner, and he can run through contact as well. Just another complete back here for the Liberty Flames, and he is the other side of really the most lethal backfield duo in the entire conference. However, they are certainly not alone, as they have other talented players on the roster as well. I knew we have to scroll down to see all the 80 overall guys. They have a really good offensive lineman in Jordan Light, who's from Largo, Maryland. They have a couple weapons on the outside in Trayon Sibley, a senior out of Akron, plus Bentley Henshaw out of Moore Park, California. And then defensively, they have multiple good players on this team. Braylon Green, who actually splits time with Clinton Reese out of Georgia. Amirian Williams is an really strong corner, plays really well, like from a man-to-man standpoint. And then they have a duo of pass rushers on the outside as well. CJ Bazell Jr., who is a speed rusher, but he is hurt, so we might not see him in the initial series production. And then TJ Bush Jr. as well, who is just a sophomore, but is already sitting at 82 overall. Certainly has NFL potential as well. Up next is Louisiana Tech, and the Bulldogs are currently fighting to get themselves a bowl eligible, as the Bulldogs will need to win out in order to make that happen. They also have some quality players on this team as well. Burt Hale is certainly one of those guys out of Epps, Louisiana. Burt Hales is a former 2-star recruit out of the home state. Does have normal development trait. He is a senior, but he does extremely excel in terms of pass blocking. Just a good blindside blocker for this Louisiana Tech passing game. And not to mention, he finishes blocks consistently. He's got 94 strength, 93 impact blocking, and 92 toughness. While he's not the quickest offensive lineman by any means, and he does reach his max potential already in terms of run blocking, this is one of the best pass blockers in the conference. Meanwhile, other notable players to look out for in Louisiana Tech squad is Cedric Woods, as well as Michael Richard, who is currently the best player in the secondary, with Cedric Woods being hurt at this moment. They do have a really good pass rusher in Jadon Burnett, who has one of the quick reaction times in the entire conference. Definitely is huge in terms of jumping snaps. Kobe Fields is an off-ball linebacker, but definitely excels in that pass coverage pretty well. He can change direction pretty well for somebody that's sitting at 220 and extremely aware as well. They're not as known for their offensive firepower, but they do have one really good offensive player in Drew Edwards, the senior out of Shreveport. He is unquestionably the top option, and the offense flows through this young man right here. Although he is a senior, so Louisiana Tech will need to find their next difference maker at the end of his season. Up next is the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Actually used to be coached by a former SEC coach. They've already missed the opportunity to go be bowl eligible. So Mid-Tennessee State at this point is playing for pride and trying to play a little bit of spoiler. Moving forward, though, I am very excited to see what the duo of Nicholas Vizzato and Omari Kelly could possibly do as we embark on this series. Neither is under any pressure of entering the transfer portal at this time. Definitely a duo to watch moving forward. I'm also curious with what kind of NFL buzz Holden Lewis can make in the last couple of games of the season. Being on a 3-7 team in a group of 5 is not going to help that NFL draft stock at all, but he is a extremely athletic tight end, 87 speed for someone that's 6'4", 212 pounds, so he already has that size to be that kind of red zone threat, but also be a threat anywhere else on the field. Is really awesome to see. They have a good center in Julius Pierce, who specializes in providing like good protection calls, as well as being a good play action shield, and just generally setting the tone for the rest of the offensive line. The defense has been holding back Mid-Tennessee State, however, but there is still pieces here. The junior Tyrell Raby is probably their best defensive option at this time, hailing out of Baton Rouge. Don't have to worry about him transferring or anything, but they need pieces around him if they want this defense to be competitive and allow the rest of the team to be competitive as well. Now, with that being said, New Mexico State has not been the same since Diego Pavia left the team and their head coach left to be the special assistant at Vanderbilt. So New Mexico State is effectively in a rebuilding mode once again. So New Mexico State, they do have a few good players that they can work off of, but even that, 2 of those guys are going to graduate after this upcoming season, this current season. Cameron Yarrow out of Provo, Utah, and Demerick Hobbs, the senior quarter out of Conroe, Texas. They do have one player to watch moving forward, though. It's Josiah Cox. He's a sophomore out of San Diego, California, and is already one of their best DBs, and is a pretty well-rounded defensive back. The former three-star out of like San Diego, he's someone that has a bunch of upside as well. Definitely a lot of places to improvement, but you know, he has an extremely high ceiling as well. But his quickness is going to help him out while he develops the rest of his ball skills. And not to mention, he does have the impact development trait, which should aid in his development. He could certainly turn into an extremely special player for the Aggies as we progress like further into this series. Definitely a name to watch for this Aggie squad. Now, one of the newer teams in the FBS in Sam Houston, you know, they had a difficult last season, but, you know, this year, obviously, Sam Houston has been an amazing team to watch. Wouldn't surprise me if Sam Houston could maybe sneak in and get into like the college football playoff top 25. Would be really cool to see that if that happens. They got some good players on this team that are going to be coming back next season, or at least could come back next season. David Fisher is a junior out of Houston. He is the top corner for this Bearcat squad, but he's not alone in that secondary, as also Caleb Weaver is there patrolling the secondary, and you can see the like the Houston influence on this roster. You know, a lot of East and like Central Texas guys here like on like Sam Houston's team, especially at the top. Also looking at coming back next year is John Gentry. He's an elusive back that, you know, just loves that opportunity to be a starter, and is a former three-star player as well out of East Texas. Just someone that is, you know, pretty well-rounded. Doesn't really have a strength inequality, aside from obviously being fast, but you know, he's definitely like a jack of all trades like type of running back that can do a little bit of everything for the Bearcats offense. Other players to watch out for, you know, got to be like Kavion Gaver, who is the you know, the leader at the linebacker position. He plays a little bit more off ball for the Bearcats. Menendrick Beal sets the tone on the offensive line, is known for consistently getting to that second level to create some open spots for John Gentry. And then Noah Smith is the top receiving target for this like Bearcat squad, but they don't have the best passing game in the world, so you know, Noah Smith is, you know, definitely relied on in order to generate explosive plays in that passing game. And then the last team that I think that we have to cover here is actually this UTEP squad. The Miners of UTEP do come out, and they're in the middle of a rebuild. They just got themselves a brand new coach, but they've been playing better here in the second half of the season and will look to finish strong. This is a younger roster on this team overall, right? So definitely need gonna be some growing pains. One player that could get a little bit of NFL buzz possibly is Maurice Westmoreland. He's a senior out of East Texas, and even though UTEP is in the state of Texas, where they're at is in a really remote part. Like, it's very close to the New Mexico border, so even though they are technically in the state of Texas, they're essentially more in New Mexico, and so recruiting for them has always been a little bit more difficult. But Maurice Westmoreland is a notable exception, and the two-star out of Houston, who traveled all the way across the state to play college football here. He could be a possible difference maker. He would need to work on his pass coverage though, because his pass coverage does leave more to be desired, but it's very solid in everything else for the UTEP Miners. And I almost forgot about Western Kentucky. How could I possibly forget about Western Kentucky? Western Kentucky's got some dudes, man. They absolutely have some phenomenal football players on their team, mostly known for their offense, though. They got good defensive pieces, which we'll touch on in a minute. But they have an interesting situation at quarterback. So they kind of go back and forth between Caden Veldkamp and TJ Finley, who is probably going to enter the transfer portal because they did go with Caden Veldkamp as the starter, and he is like a hometown kid as well, which is a really good story. Very tall quarterback, 6'6", 236, was able to beat out the transfer in TJ Finley in order to get this opportunity, and there's certainly no shortage of weapons on this roster. River Helms is the top target out of Western Alabama, but there is definitely very crafty route runners, even though they may not be the fastest guys. Keshawn Johnson is a very good route runner. Easton Messer also kills people with that route running ability. Not to mention, they do have Delvin Smith as well, the senior out of Glasgow, Kentucky. And if all else fails, they do also have Elijah Young in the backfield, who is a just, you know, a home run threat waiting to happen. I mean, 94 speed, 95 acceleration. He is not someone that you want to mess around with. Don't want to allow him to have a crease. They also have a solid offensive line led by Quintavious Leslie, who also sets the tone, hailing out of Rome, Georgia. Now, with that being said, even though there's more love for the offensive side of the ball, their defense does have some playmakers on the outside as well. Anthony Johnson Jr. is one. He is a senior out of Miami. Can keep up with many of the speedy receivers in the Conference USA, but carries those ball skills as well. Upton Stout is the number 2 corner, but could easily be the number 1 at many of these other Conference USA schools. He's a junior out of Houston, Texas. They do also have the ability to get to the quarterback, or at least set the tone, like in the box. Dallas Walker is a huge importance in terms of like setting that tone in the box early in the ball game, and really get them into the deep end where they're forced to throw it against, you know, these 2 corners that Western Kentucky does have available on their roster. So definitely easy to see why Western Kentucky is undefeated in the conference going into the back end of the season, and really has that opportunity to win a Conference USA championship. Alright, so a couple of things I want to get into in terms of like the general battle rhythm of how this series is going to work. So these are the sliders that we are going to be rocking with here on this series. We may make some adjustments here or there. I did do a few test games with these sliders and got some very realistic scores. So feel pretty good about these sliders from my initial testing in the play now. And in case you guys are curious, and for those that may be a little bit newer to the channel, yes, this is going to be built in kind of a like sim league type of format, except like just following the teams in the Conference USA specifically, and not necessarily paying as much attention, or at least having more generalized attention like around the entirety of the FCS. And then what we'll also do as well is whenever we do have a nationally televised broadcast, we will jump in and like watch these games. But if it is more of like a localized TV broadcast, or there's no broadcast listed at all, then it will be simulated and you'll see like a box score. So that's kind of the like going to be like the general battle rhythm of this series. So with that, you know, like definitely don't be surprised if we do end up with maybe like 2 to 3 weeks of gameplay per episode. Finally, when it comes to recruiting, the recruiting is actually all going to be done by the computer. I will not have any impact in terms of recruiting unless it comes down to like adding people onto the board when it comes to the transfer portal, or a team is ranked in the top 25. If a team does end up being ranked in the top 25, then we will have more of a manual impact for that specific team when it comes down to like recruiting for that specific squad. But other than that, I will have very little impact in terms of what roster moves are made by each of the individual teams. So with that being said, boys, next episode we are going to jump into some gameplay for the very first time in this series, and I hope you guys are excited for it. This is an idea that I've been working on in the background for a week or two now, so definitely been a lot of work going on in the background, and I hope you guys enjoy it, man. It's going to be a fun series. We're going to have, you know, like the custom guys, and, you know, we're just bringing that Sim League feeling back here onto the channel. It's something that I enjoy deeply. And so with that being said, guys, this is JohnJake Gaming on the mic signing off, and next time we will get things started with week number 12 and possibly week number 13 action here within the Conference USA. And so with that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, man, if you're excited for this series, make sure you go ahead and do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is JohnJake Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.